War Eagle, and welcome to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn Family spectrum. Obviously, today the big thing is the Citrus Bowl. I don't know if it was a big thing for you or not. Probably wasn't. Citrus Bowl game for Auburn versus Northwestern. The Tigers do take a loss by the score of 19-35. Feels good. It's a great way to start off 2021. Am I right? Lost in the Citrus Bowl. Everything all feels all jumbled. I'm sure you've all got some feelings out there, and we want to talk about it here. But first, I want to thank you for joining me, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. We appreciate you being here and being part of our broadcast. If you're watching live, and hope that I can hear from you throughout the show today. If you are here, please feel free to give me a War Eagle, hello, whatever you'd like to do. If we have any rogue rival fans who'd like to pop in, and I guess you're welcome to. We just probably will only tolerate you for a little bit. But yeah, so we just let me know that you're here. You can leave comments and questions throughout the show today on either format. We're going live on YouTube mainly, but we have Periscope/Twitter, whichever one you want to call it as well, going over here to my left. I always recommend for those on Twitter to come over to YouTube because it's the better experience, and I can keep up with your questions a little bit better because they disappear after a certain time. That's what I always recommend, but it's here for you if you'd like to be a part of that. For those of you that are coming in right now as well, if you will consider on both formats, please do hit the like button if you enjoy what you're watching, the retweet button, and you can even share it out on social media because it's always more fun when we have people here to give their feelings on what's going on in the world of Auburn stuff today. So I can already see the comments coming up, and I think people are just – they got hot takes and things galore that they want to say. So I think this is going to be a fun show trying to deal with everything that everybody wants to get in and say. And so I'll try my best to keep up with it throughout the show tonight. A couple of things before we do get started, though, that we always want to remind you of. If you would like to help support the content that we do here, I always put this at the beginning and end of every show. We'll talk a little bit about more at the end. We do have our E2C Network Booster Club, where you can sign up for as little as $1 a month to help support the content that we put out here, not just here on YouTube and Twitter, but also on our podcast as well. By the way, I don't think I mentioned that. We are a family of podcasts, and that's what we're mainly known for. So I hope that you'll consider checking that out at least, even if you don't want to sign up, just to see if it's worth your while. Some pretty cool perks that you can get for supporting our content that we put out for you. Let me say hello to a couple people I've seen pop in. I know Chandler Fullman is here on Twitter, so this should be interesting anytime Chandler's here. Hillbilly's here on YouTube, says War Eagle. Devin says he's ready for a new chapter at this point. I mean, after that game, I understand that. Spooky says terrible game. To quote Sir Charles, yes, terrible. A terrible game. Warhawk says, when do you think Harsin announces his new coaches? Ooh, that's a good question. It's a much deeper question than I think you intended it to be, just because I think that changed today. I think it changed today personally. So I'm sure that's all we can talk about. And I think most people are going to want to talk about things outside of the game, and obviously we can do that. But I do want to kind of like talk about the game itself a little bit and kind of maybe get some impressions, things that stuck out. But despite what you may think, there were some good things that happened. So I do want to try to discuss those things. And I know there's going to be a propensity to lump a lot of blame on a particular coach or person, especially player. And I'm going to refute that a little bit for you because it's just my nature, right? I like to kind of argue the other side of things. That's why I do a podcast, for crying out loud, is just to talk about things. So I probably will have some opinions that maybe some of you won't like. Hillbilly says, I bet he hasn't had time to line up a DC or an OC. I agree. He is right now just trying to take stock of what just happened in that game. There was a lot to make decisions on just from that game itself. Devin says, I like how the young guys played today. Glad to see them get some snaps. So here's one thing that you will never, ever be able to say about, even especially today, is that an Auburn Tiger team does not quit. Now, there was that one drive where it kind of looked they had kind of laid down a little bit, but they tried their hardest. There's just too much going on right now, inside the team, outside the team, to be successful at this point. I honestly, even if Alabama, as talented as they are right now, was going through this type of turmoil, they would be experiencing some of the same issues that we're having right now. It's just hard to win when you are dealing with such big turnover and changes and transition and all that stuff, especially in a COVID-19 year. Let's throw that in the mix. Let's not forget about that. It's 2021, I know, but hey, it's still here. By the way, if I do sound a little bit nasally, I am. I've got sinuses and stuff. It's not the big thing. I don't have that, okay? It's just me being sinuses, typical allergies that everybody, well, not everybody, some people get this time of year. So don't worry about me. I'm fine, but I know I sound nasally, and I might have to like sneeze or something from time to time. So a little bit of grossness there for you. Or get a little bit of water to clear the throat up a little bit after all this talking. Dusty says, boys fought hard today. We really need to improve on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Would like to see Caddy and T-Will stay on. War Eagle to you as well, sir. Jack says Canyon has a... Is it so? I have a debate for everybody. Is it... the announcers are always terrible at pronouncing people's names. Is it Canyon or Canyon? Like, how do you pronounce that? I mean, this is the first time we're really getting to see him, so we haven't had a chance to practice that name. But yes, I agree. Showed a lot of promise for a position that's probably going to have a lot of available space, especially after this game. I thought it was about as ugly as I've ever seen from Auburn. You, sir, probably never watched the Mississippi State Auburn game of 2007, I think is what it was. 3-2. There will never be a game uglier than that. I'm sorry. I know it feels bad right now, but there will never, ever be a game uglier than that. So you may have seen ugliness, but if you hadn't seen that game, you hadn't seen ugly. Let's see. So this is probably one of the big topics that I know that's on a lot of people's minds. I was a huge Bo Nix supporter, but at this point I think he's regressed. He may be too much of a project for a third-year player. So that's a big topic, right? And I know people got a lot of feelings on that. My opinion is probably going to differ from a lot of the popular opinion about Bo Nix, and I'll kind of get into that as we go throughout here because I'm sure that's going to be what a lot of people say, and I'm trying to stay with all the comments here. By the way, as you come in, if you haven't, please do consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell since we do these on a random basis and we don't really announce when we're going to do these things. That's the best way so you can know when we go live. Blake says, Caniani? I'm terrible at doing phonetics. You're going to really laugh at me trying to do this. Canyon. No. I'll learn it as time goes on. I'm not going to sit here and butcher that. A guy who has a podcast network can't speak. What's wrong with that? Spooky says that was a great game, the 3-2 Mississippi State game. You and I have different opinions of what a great game is, sir. That was not a great game. A great game of garbage. Yes, but that was bad. I study lots of film. Hillby says the kid from Texas could easily get his job done. So Hillbilly, the only thing that I will counter, and again, remember, this is my nature, is that everybody watches a lot of, not everybody, tons of people watch a lot of film. So I'm not trying to discredit that you've watched a lot of film, but film and getting out there on the field are two different things. If that was the case, Jeremy Johnson would have been a Heisman winner and a national championship winner at Auburn. Because on film, and even the film we had of him before he took over as a starter, looked great. But when they get out there and it's all in their hands, much different. So just because you think, always remember too, the most popular player on the team, and this one not even on the team yet, I mean, I know he's signed, but not even on the team yet, is the backup. That's why you saw a lot of cheers for Cord Sandberg. See how well that went. Maybe Bo Nix will get the Joe Burrow makeover. You know, I think that's possible. I don't like attaching names to people. I was guilty of that a lot with, Nick Marshall, trying to compare him to Cam Newton when they're two completely different type of players, even though they're both more mobile quarterbacks. I think in some ways Nick showed a better arm than Cam had in some areas, but I think we could probably debate that all day. So I don't like to assign a type of comeback, but I do think that at this point, if Bo does stay and has a great career, then it would be considered a comeback, but I don't think it necessarily has to be compared with a Joe Burrow or I'm trying to think of another example out there, because I don't really see Joe Burrow as having a comeback as you think of being terrible and then rising to the occasion, because he just switched around a lot, went from Ohio State over here, sat as a backup, and then finally got his opportunity and seized it. I don't really consider that. Bo wouldn't be able to have that Joe Burrow story unless he lost his job and then won it back. I hate to say this, but I feel like a lot of players have quit looking to transfer, thinking about Tank and AS. Anthony Schwartz is, I guess, who you're saying there. So I think that's probably, I think you did see a little bit of that. It's always a question of when people sit out. Are they sitting out because of injury? You also have to factor in COVID now. Are they sitting out because of that? Are they sitting out because they're going to go pro and don't want to hurt themselves? That's a bigger topic for another day. I do not like the whole concept of sitting out. In fact, it's kind of degraded what makes college football so special to me, because it was pro football. It's all about me. College football, it was about us. And I think when you give people opportunities to make it about them, that takes a little bit of the specialness away from the game. Hillbilly does not want Tank to leave. Better be okay with it if it does happen. I'm just saying. Depends on who you ask. Elijah Kenyon had a big game. Can't wait to watch him. Going to be a very good player. Is it confirmed Kevin Steele is out now? Blake is asking. So according to Cole Kublik, who I would consider a reliable source, and he has Auburn, he was an Auburn football player, so I'm sure he has ties to get that information as well. So, if he says it, I would say there's probably a legitimate amount of smoke there. I would put a lot of stock into what he says. So is it a shock though? Right? Hillbilly's not a Steele fan. Dusty says he's right. Davis from North Shore is a baller. Yeah, you can be a baller on film and in high school. It's different when you get out there on the field. I will go back to my Jeremy Johnson scenario. Looked great, even in college for like the backup roles that he had to be in a couple times. Not when it was his. So, Fresh Boy, that's a strong take right there. The transfer portal has messed up college football. So it's this balance, right? It's this balance of trying to do what's right by individuals and the players, because sometimes there are circumstances where it makes sense for a player, to do right by them, to have this transfer portal or to do something like that. Problem is, if you do it for one, you've got to do it for all. Eventually, you've got to do it for all, right? And when you open Pandora's box, you can't put what you let out back in. So we fought for so long to keep college football the way it was, but it will eventually, and it is still becoming more of an amateur league for the NFL, and the more it continues to do so, the more individualistic you will continue to see the game be made, which is very sad, in my opinion. Hard to learn to stay in the pocket with that O-line. And that, honestly, with the Bo Nix stuff, is the thing that either people are missing that when they're on their analysis of Bo Nix, or they're choosing to ignore it because it's easier to put blame on one player as opposed to five, because you just don't want to believe it's that bad. It's that bad. I promise you. I've heard that so many times, but Bo leaves early on many occasions, Hillbilly says. So, I'm not trying to read into your stuff so much because I can only, based off of what you write, it's hard to read emotions and stuff into that. But I feel like you've got a propensity to be a little bit more negative towards Bo. So I don't think anything that we say here is going to be able to change your mind otherwise, but I'll try. Wouldn't you be running for your life at that point? Have you seen the time that they give the man? And at that point, if they did start to give you some time and it had gotten better, you've created such a habit at that point that you're used to it. The first little pressure you get, you bail, okay? So at some point, he does have to get better at that, but when the offensive line has not shown the ability to get better, I don't blame him, personally. Let's see. I just really wish the administration waited to get rid of the coach. I appreciate the kids playing, but this year came with a lot. Hard to make a fair assessment with all the disruption. Absolutely. E-Money's on the money with that analysis. Look, we could disagree all day that whether it was the right decision to get rid of Coach Malzahn or not. I don't think that you can make a completely strong argument with everything else that's going on this season, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense, especially with what you see going on around the world and in college football. And it just didn't make sense. It was not a smart choice. One of the most adamant I won't call him a detractor of Coach Malzahn, but he has not been in Coach Malzahn's camp that I have with one of my good friends. I asked him this question. I said, so if I was to tell you that I want to fire Coach Malzahn and hire Coach Harsin, brought that to your table, what would you say to me? He said he wouldn't give me a yes or no if that was a good choice. He said, I will need more names given to me. And I was like, that answers my question, actually. So, and look, I'm not trying to knock Coach Harsin because my hope is, and really, he can improve it already because of how bad it is at this point. But as I warned you all, when they fired Coach Malzahn, Auburn made the choice to become the next Tennessee for a long, long time. I don't know that it'll be a while till we get out of that. Chris Law says, Kalen Newton, Demetrius Davis, excuse me, and Bo Nix will make an interesting QB competition. You know, I completely forgot about Kalen. Completely forgot about him. I was kind of excited to see what he would do this year. Hillbilly says, don't think he'll be a factor. Probably so. The team never quit on Gus like the previous coaches. I think that's another factor there. You know, this was not a decision that was made for it. This was not a decision that was made because the program had fallen apart. This was simply that they valued winning more than integrity and the team's stability. And it may work out and end up be the best decision, but this was not a decision that was wise in the players' eyes. It's very clear of that. Devin says Kalen moved to receiver. Yeah, but who knows at this point. Hillbilly said he's glad that Gus is gone, and I mean, yeah, and you may end up being right. I'm pretty sure you won't be, and unfortunately, I'm not even directing this at Hillbilly. Everybody who's been very negative toward Gus will never ever have to face up to that because that's just the nature of being able to say things on the internet, and you never have to kind of come back and face it most of the time unless you're a politician, right? But it looks good right now, or maybe it looks good right now, but I think you will see that it was not a wise choice. If this had been a Gene Chizik situation, not much I can argue with there, except for the whole good man aspect of it, but lots of other angles to take out on that. Darlene says, War Eagle, I've been sad today, but looking forward to our new coach to take us in a new direction. It clearly does need a new direction at this point because there was no direction at that point. Dusty says, you couldn't be more wrong on Auburn becoming UT. 7 straight years of 4+ losses. We were already a pretty mediocre program. So, let me see how I can tackle this one here. I don't think that as of this moment, you can't say that I'm wrong because we don't know what's happened yet, right? And I don't know that I could be wrong, but I can't say that I'm going to be right or going to be wrong yet on that statement. I'm just telling you, looking at all the situation and all the information I have, that this is a decision that has turned us into the next Tennessee. Coaching changes every 4 to 5 years, and probably a season of moderate success that plummets again. So just my opinion, but I don't think you can say that that would be wrong on that just yet. 4 losses in the SEC West. And I know this infuriates a ton of people to say this. It's not that bad, folks. You got to look at the whole picture. 4 losses a year in the SEC West. There are teams that would love, and legitimately good teams that would love to have that if they were competing against what we had to. Big Ten West is tough, Noah says. Minnesota and now Northwestern. Minnesota's kind of fallen off, though, haven't they, Noah? I think Minnesota's kind of had their heyday, and remember when people wanted PJ Fleck? That quieted down real quick, didn't it? 7 years of 4 losses, but we still would upset Bama. It's true. So it was a plus side of that. Anyway, let's talk more about this game and what we got going in the future as opposed to the whole thing, and talk about the ramifications there. We've talked a lot about who maybe stuck out to us in a good way there. Canyon, however you say it. I've mispronounced it 1,000 times at this point. Let's see. The running game, there's really nothing to get really excited about. Bo Nix was honestly the best runner out there, and that's not saying much. Speaking of which, Bo was clearly hurt in this game for most of the game and did not look like his normal self, which was very sad to watch at times. And he was hurting so bad. You may not like Bo Nix, but you cannot question his heart and his ability, because he had every reason when he got really hurt there, I think in the early part of the fourth quarter, went off the field. Cord Samber came in and did a terrible job, just to be honest. He came back and demanded to come back in when he probably shouldn't have come back in, and then kind of led his team down the field like a boss there for a second, considering the circumstances. So you cannot question his heart and his effort. Here's the thing I love to see, though, is the amount of players that got into the passing game. Elijah Canion obviously was the big name today with a touchdown and 80 yards. Seth Williams had some pretty good catches, just didn't result into a touchdown for him. Almost had that leaning over the end zone catch right there in the out of bounds too. Shed Jackson, John Samuel Shanker, which is the hardest name on Auburn to actually say. Kobe Hudson, Elijah Stove, Sean Shivers, Brandon Frazier in the mix, DJ Williams, and Zevion Capers before he got injured. Here's the other factor in this game. So I think that's the thing when you see, well, we talk on this show a lot about emotions and context informing what the reality is. The emotions of a 19-35 loss is, oh my gosh, we're terrible, we're awful, Bo Nix is terrible, Kevin Steele's terrible, all that stuff. The context of the situation is COVID-19. Your coach is fired. There's no real leadership, and it doesn't seem like much of them are going to be retained. People who are opting out, an offensive line that has not been secure the entire game, injuries within the game, and you're playing a pretty decent Northwestern team, probably, and I would say one of the better Northwestern teams. So right there, all that collides to form your reality, and people usually sway to one side or the other of this, and it's fine to be just a little bit to one side or the other, but when you go to the extreme of, oh, we're terrible, or you're just always making excuses, that's not really where it is. It can be a terrible showing. Just you got to understand the reality of the situation too. McLean and Smoke played well. I agree. That defense looked a lot better after that first quarter before the kind of wind was let out of the sails there in the fourth quarter. Trying to look here. E-Money says something to think about. Coach Harsin record at Arkansas State was worse than Gus, and his Boise State record is worse than Peterson. I can get on your level of thinking here, because you're not trying to downplay what Coach Harsin has done there, but we always talk about right now like, oh, everything's going to be in a new direction, but you got to be able to look within the story there, look past the sails, so to speak. So I like your thinking, E. Only thing terrible was our O-line, but this has been the case for 3 years now, and I've said that. I'm sorry, I missed who that was on Twitter. That not one, because there's plenty of bad decisions Coach Malzahn has probably made, but the biggest mistake he made was hiring Herb Hand. And someone I know said it very well today. The ghost of Herb Hand still affects us to this day. And that is what got Coach Malzahn fired. Honestly. If you look back through the track record of his time here, that is what happened. And that's what you're seeing today. And that's why someone said it earlier, priority number one, I don't even care who his coaches are at this point, is got to get offensive line figured out. You got to. Has to be the priority, because that has been our biggest Achilles heel at this point. Chris Law says if Brian Harsin hires a solid OCDC, I can see Auburn going 10-2 or better next year. I mean, I could have seen Coach Malzahn doing the same thing. We can say what we think we might see all we want, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And I'm not trying to say that I'm hoping that's going to happen. I hope he goes undefeated and wins the national title and proves everybody wrong. I'm just trying to look beyond the sale. Jack says, do you think that after this game there are any staff that is safe, even Cadillac or T-Well? I don't. Honestly, I had hoped, and I said on previous streams that I thought that maybe some of the defensive staff would try to be retained, and I'm still pitching that he considers to promote T-Will to defensive coordinator and giving him a shot. I think Coach Harsin, after what he saw today, cleans house. Just cleans it out. I mean, wouldn't you? I don't blame him if he does that. But I do think if he wants to unite the fan base and unite the team and stuff like that, you've got to give them something to hang on to, at least for the first year or two. And I think maybe promoting T. Will, maybe keeping a Coach Cadillac. And I know I'm biased because I'm a Cadillac fan. If you really want to win points with me, you'll keep Cody Burns, but I know that's not going to be a popular comment. So hopefully Cadillac and T. Will, but I doubt it. Offensive line transfer portal is going to be key, but we cannot rely on that forever because we've tried to rely on that the last couple of years, and that hasn't really worked out. So the problem with the portal is if you hit it right, it works. But I really think we're going to have to show some patience, and you're going to have to get the recruits, the actual recruits in there, build them up, deal with a year or two of a little bit of mediocre, which is the buzzword these days, before that kind of gets shored up there a little bit. Noah says Auburn will be fine. I agree. I think they'll be fine. I just don't think they'll be great. I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, Auburn wins. Let's see. I'm way behind in comments here. Where is our old Gus lover? I don't know what that means, hillbilly. East can't argue with the Herb hand issue. Strength and conditioning seems to have taken a big dip as well. I don't know about the strength and conditioning E-Money. I think Ryan Russell has done a great job there personally. I just think it came down to Herb Hand was a great recruiter, great at getting the 5 and 4 stars in there, but didn't coach them. And after that happened, you had J.B. Grimes come in and try to fix the situation, but with his health and his lack of time he had available to still be coaching, it doesn't really work that well. And so then you give Jack Bricknell 1 year to do something. It's not going to happen in a year. And I think that's my frustration with people's criticism of Bo Nix is they keep forgetting that he's had a different offensive coordinator every year so far, and is going to have a third one next year, maybe a fourth one, maybe a fifth one if he takes the extra year that everybody's getting at this point. You can't expect the kid to get his mechanics and everything worked out when he's being taught by 5 potentially different people during his time. It's the Jason Campbell story all over again. A lot of criticism for Jason Campbell, but he's one of the most revered people in Auburn history now because it all came together finally. So let's just give him some time. Let's not, now that we can't point our lasers at Gus or Kevin Steele, let's not point our lasers at Bo Nix. Imani, is it? I think you want Brian Harsin to say, so I can say I told you so about the no coaching Gus. Do I want him to fail? No, absolutely not. Why would I want my team to fail? I always find it funny when people interpret that into what I'm saying because this is very interesting. It says a lot about, and I'm not trying to be mean, it just says a lot about a different mindset that we have. I don't want Auburn to fail. I'm just actually looking at everything that's going on there and really understanding what the reality is of the decision that we just made, what's likely to happen, but I also leave room for what could happen, which is a great thing if it does. So, no, I don't want Coach Brian Harsin to fail at all. I want him to be the most successful coach at Auburn, and I will be the happiest person on campus. Or not on campus because I'm not on campus anymore. Well, I'm on campus when I'm at games. I will be the happiest Auburn fan in the world. But it's not about I told you so, but it's about looking back and saying, okay, that wasn't the right decision. And it's okay. You got to be okay with that. Let's see. Noah says, broadcasting question, do you get more views when Auburn is good or when the drama because they are struggling? I honestly... if you're asking about this, because we've only been doing these YouTube sessions recently, if you're asking about this, obviously now with all the drama going on, this has been driving that. But I mean, honestly, our most popular episode was the one celebrating Coach Harsin getting hired, and I don't really attribute that to the drama, just the excitement of the hire on our podcast network. So I think it's a little bit of both. It depends on what the hot topic is, right? If people are jazzed to talk about something, and usually they're more jazzed to talk negative stuff, then it just depends. So it's not a yes or a no question. It's kind of, unfortunately, it's a non-answer. Samuel, what's up, man? Go Tigers. Are you saying go Tigers for Clemson or Auburn because you've got both of them in there? I mean, if I'm honest here, I'm rooting for Ohio State because I like parity, and I'm tired of seeing Alabama and Clemson in the championship game every year. So, unfortunately, I'm only saying War Eagle, not necessarily go Tigers. Let's see. How do you think Harsin feel about our team after watching this game? I think he knew how big a job he had when he came in. I think it just became more of a reality. His biggest issue right now is making sure he gets the offensive line fixed. He has now seen it firsthand how bad it is and how much that has affected Bo Nix. So if my biggest advice to Brian Harsin is, and he will never hear this or ever listen to me because who am I, is don't focus on trying to replace Bo Nix. Don't even worry so much about, getting the splash coaching hires for your assistant coaches. Just worry. I would say, take that back. Get the splash hire, like the sure thing. I'm not talking about the popular one, but the right coach at offensive line and probably in that token offensive coordinator. And then let's fix that. Let's fix one problem that we know that has to get fixed before we go forward. But yes, what would I be thinking if I was Coach Harsin? I knew it was bad. I didn't think it was that bad. And look, and at the same time, you've also got to take a step back as a coach and say, look at all the situations surrounding. A lot of players opted out. Auburn was actually in a position to win the game for a while there with everything that's going on. So it said something about the talent that's on the team, right? So yeah. Excuse me. I told you I'll be coughing a little bit during this, and as I knock my microphone around. Dusty, you continue to say that firing Gus was the right decision. So based on what do you think Gus was going to turn the program around, or do you think a 4-year loss a year is acceptable? I know people probably don't want me to go into this ad nauseum again, so maybe we'll take this on a bigger stream, but I value things much greater than winning. First of all, my coach being a Christian and the way he represents the program and himself, and that is more valuable to me, and that is more satisfying personally. Winning is never, ever satisfying enough. So you've got to learn to value something more than that. So I don't know if you've been here before for that. So that's kind of what I base that on. So the whole 4 losses thing being a jab doesn't really bother me because I want our team to win and I want them to do the best, but I value something much higher than that. All right, Hillbilly says, Bo Nix not the answer. If the kid from Texas is named the starter in the fall, I think he stand a better chance. Well, the backup is always the most popular player on the thing. So what? Let me ask you this, Hillbilly. What about Demetrius Davis? What does he do better than Bo Nix, based off what you've seen in high school? What does he do better? You should have people call on here. I actually have probably the capability of doing that, and maybe that's an idea. It's a little complicated at the moment, but if we continue to build this, so here's I'm gonna do a little plug here. If y'all will help us continue to grow here in the YouTube space, which y'all have done a great job of, like honestly. If nothing else, I know I probably frustrate y'all with some of my commentary sometimes, but I do appreciate y'all being here. Is hitting the like button, being here, subscribing, all that stuff. The sooner we get to like 1,000 and stuff like that, which we are heading towards faster than I ever thought we would be. It's all boring stuff of why that's important and stuff like that. Then we can start, doing some bigger things like that. But that's a great idea, and I think one of the things that I love about doing this is we're here interacting together. So, not a bad idea. Dusty, by all accounts, Harsin is a Christian man. Wins being devout. I don't understand the typing on there. I've done some research on that myself. I don't see any reason to think he's not. But I have not seen any confirmations that are solid enough, like I have under Coach Malzahn. And that doesn't mean that he's not. But that's the biggest. That's the biggest thing for me personally. Doesn't have to be for you. And I don't see that reflected in the Boise State program, for instance, the way I did in an Auburn program. And that's obviously different for individuals within the program, but by and large, that was very clear under Coach Malzahn. Let's see. Morris having time with offense and getting used to play. Okay. I had 2020 circled with a normal situation. Morris having time with offense and offense and getting used to playing defense without Brown and Davidson. You are a smart man, E. I like the way you think, because we have to take a look and say, you expected Chad Morris in a COVID-19 year to have a super successful year. Then you were just setting that up for failure. If it doesn't mean it couldn't have happened, but you have to understand what's going on within the program to not be so devastated by all these things. Hillbilly says he's just better about Demetrius Davis. Well, excuse me, Hillbilly. How dare I disagree with that logic? I'm kidding, but it is. I'm all about competition. I just truly feel the kid will make a better decision. But you have to have reasons for that, right? So I'd love that. Dusty says, Dabo wins being a devout Christian by all accounts. Harsin runs a clean program as a family man. You can't win and being a good you can win and be a good person. So a couple things with your comment there. Number one on my to replace Gus Malzahn list was Dabo Swinney. The reality is he wasn't coming, but that's why he was number one, because he wins and he was a devout Christian man. So that's why he was my short list. By all accounts, Harsin runs a clean program and is a family man. Running a clean program, being a family man, and being a general good person does not mean that you are a Christian. It doesn't. It just means that you have great morals. So we can say that about a lot of people, and I'm not trying to discredit that, but I want to see the fruit of that. And this is a bigger conversation that most people don't really care about. I love having those in small doses here, but I know most of you are probably like bored with that kind of stuff. But we can talk about that and stuff. All right, let's see. Boosters are dumb. You will be saying that until there's no money left for the program. Be careful what you wish for, folks. Be careful. Study his film. If you don't think the same thing, then I guess you're blind. Well, call me blind then, because I've looked at this film too, and I'm excited about it. But just film doesn't mean it translates onto the field. I'll go back to my situation with Jeremy Johnson. That if on film he looked great, on the field he looked great, didn't translate as a starter. And that to this day, it's crazy to me. Like, what happened? Because Jeremy Johnson, I loved the dude so much. I was so excited for his future here, and we had legitimate reasons to think he was going to be so good. What happened, man? It just wouldn't click for him. It was just crazy. But anyway, so this game, obviously, I knew we wouldn't have to talk as much about this, but as most of y'all pointed out, there were a couple of things in there to be excited about. Kenyon was one. Excuse me. A couple of the defensive players showed out, and I liked the heart, especially from Bo and a lot of the other players that got out there, wanted to compete, and took this seriously, even if there was a very low probability they were going to win this game. So I took a lot away from this that I was very, very pleased by in a very unpleasing situation. When I saw Bo go on the ground, get hurt, and go sit on the sideline, I was like, well, that's it. We're just going to have to let the backups go in there and see what they can do for a little bit. And when he came running back out there and actually threw the ball pretty well, I was like, man's got heart. He does. That's the kind of guy I want to get behind. And that's stuff that you can't get on film. That was for you, Hillbilly. Dusty, I think we've talked about the Gus thing enough. But I'm glad you like the podcast network. I really appreciate it. By the way, what do you listen on, and what is your favorite show that we do there? I would suspect football, since that's what we're talking about mainly here. But anyway, who coughed? Me? Anyway, Ray. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I can take. I think we've kind of wrapped up our time here on the main broadcast on the Twitter broadcast. So I'll go ahead and say goodbye to you all. We'll be back again soon. So I hope you'll come over to YouTube and check it out. And we'll be doing some more live stuff soon. So War Eagle to then. Let's start the new era. YouTube folks, most of you know this. I stick around a little bit longer for you all, just for a thing. So let's see how big the viewers drop, because that lets me know how many new people we have, how big it goes down when people start hearing me like exit out. This is always like the game for me. this point. I see you've got some more questions and stuff. Let me do this while we are kind of wrapping up for final comments and questions and things like that. If you have not, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, because that's the best way to stay in touch with when we go live and when we do these things, because I don't do them every day, and sometimes I do them twice a day if the news warrants it. And there's going to be a lot of news coming out late. So if you want to be a part of it, I suggest you do that. If you enjoyed this stream, please do smash the like button. We are getting almost to 500 subscribers here, so it'd be awesome to reach that by the next couple of days. I think we can do it. I believe we can do it out there. That would be great. If you would like to at least check out some ways that you can help support the content that we do here, we do have our Patreon campaign called the E2C Network Booster Club for as little as $1 a month. I just put the link in the chat window. You can check out all the stuff that you get there. So you don't have to sign up for anything by going to the link. You can just check it out. But it does help produce our content if you'd like to be a part of it and support our stuff. And then I'm putting the Apple Podcast link to E2C Network there in the chat as well if you want to check out the podcast if you have not done so. We have grown by leaps and bounds everywhere, and that's thanks to all of you. And even though our opinions differ a lot of times, that's why I love you guys and ladies, because I know we have guys and ladies here, because I love hearing everybody's opinions on this stuff. So that's mainly what I wanted to share with y'all before we got out of here. Hillbilly says, I've seen your condescending nature. What's condescending? I don't think it was condescending. Hurts my feelings. That felt condescending. Do you think Seth comes back? I don't know. You know, it says a lot about a guy that has his talent and his ability to go at the next level, and he doesn't opt out of the game. It makes you question whether he's actually thinking about coming back, right? You know, because I had kind of written him off. I think we were talking about in the last live stream who leaves, and then we were talking about Seth, Schwartz, and Tank. And at the time I said yes to Seth, maybe to Schwartz, who's now a yes, and probably not to Tank, who's kind of questionable. It looks like there might be a little smoke to those rumors. Maybe that news has come out since we've been doing this stream. But yeah, I don't know. Now I'm questioning that, right? Because I was, you know, I may be wrong about Tank, and now I may be wrong about Seth on this. Maybe he just wanted one last ride with his boys. That's great. I just don't know. I'm kind of thinking there's a chance now Seth might stay. Maybe he sees something in the Brian Harsin scheme of offensive stuff that would really benefit his draft stock. I think he could benefit from another year personally. I think every player technically, unless you were the Heisman winner, could benefit from another year to boost your stock. Because right now I think Seth was projected maybe like third or fourth or something like that, and depending on who you look at, maybe only fifth. But he could be a second rounder with a decent season. I think he's a second rounder next year. With a great season, he's a first rounder. He's a great wide receiver. Excellent. Dusty says, listens on Spotify, like basketball and football talk equally. I'm all Auburn all the time. Well, you have found the right place, sir, because we do anything and everything Auburn, as you have found out. Yes, we have even done a Bachelor miniseries when Maddie Pruitt, the basketball coach's daughter, was on that. Don't ask me how that happened. It just happened. Oh, the things that we do for the things that we love. Rise like Bo Nix will have a tough ballot quarterback depending on how he plays next year. And so I've been much supportive of Bo Nix here. That's not me saying that I don't want Demetrius Davis or a transfer to come in and give him a run for his money, because I do agree that competition makes everybody better. And maybe that's a little bit of his problem right now, right? Maybe he doesn't have enough competition because Cord Sandberg ain't doing it. Khalil Garnett isn't doing it right now. Or Grant, gosh, forgetting his name, the other backup that came from Bowling Green. If Harsin truly was the guy, in which I still don't believe, why not give Gus one more year with normalcy, if not fire him and save the money? Hey, E, you and I are on the same page, man. But the fact is, it's done, it's here, and I agree with most people that we've got to kind of move forward this. But doesn't mean we can't kind of go back and retrospectively look at it. I do think that he needed a year of normalcy to make that decision, and this was not the time to do it. Would be good under Harsin, in my opinion. I think so too. I think Harsin would find a way to utilize him, but I don't disagree that with Schwartz's decision to if he's opted out this year is all that we know. We don't know that he's left, right? Unless I have that wrong. I think he just opted out of the game, not said I'm leaving. I believe that's the case. Really appreciate the channel. However, it's time to clean house. I was like, what is the however going to be? I'm glad that you enjoy being here. And look, at this point, we do need to clean house, right? We do. I mean, because, what went on today can't happen again. So that's not me saying we don't need to clean house. But I can also take retrospective looks and say that's not this. Harsin would be available next year. Might have been. Some other team might have snagged him up. Doesn't mean we couldn't have coaxed him back over. But hey, if he wins, we win, right? So I'm not mad about that. Northwestern is a good team. Okay. Josh says Northwestern was a good team. Hopefully we will be okay next season. I don't have much hope, but we'll see. The thing that worries me is we go to Happy Valley on the road next year. If the schedules are going to be normal, who knows? 2021 may be another 2020, right? Hindsight may not be 2020. So that's going to be a tough battle. Penn State had a bad year, but I think a lot of teams that maybe had some questions in areas, those were magnified, such as the case with Auburn. And, yeah, it's going to be tough. But if he can do it, it's going to win a lot of happy Auburn fans over. I believe he has the capability of doing it. Bo Nix is not the answer, period. Well, I disagree with that, sir. I hope the QB from Thompson gets a shot. He's a sleeper, in my opinion. I think he gets a shot. But can he beat Bo Nix? I don't think he can at this point. Always remember, the most popular guy on the team is the backup. Loy, thank you, Hillbilly. Loy was his Grant Loy. Yes, thank you. I was so obvious why I forgot him, because we didn't see him at all. Oh, you found us by accident? That's awesome. Glad you found us, man. Schwartz needs to go play with Malik Willis. I would enjoy that a lot. He probably could. I hope he stays here, though. I hope he makes the decision to stay here. Everyone on that sideline needs to be fired. I don't know about that, but I'd really like to see Travis Williams retained / promoted. But we'll see. CD is especially excited about Demetrius Davis coming. Look, so here's the thing that we can't argue about. There's a lot to be excited about because it can't get too much worse other than a losing season than it is currently right now, the way things ended for us. So if you don't take the perspective that there's more to be excited about, then I can't help you. But I do think that some cautious optimism would be warranted here, and I think that's what sets you up to not be so disappointed when in a very difficult schedule, Auburn does have some struggles coming up that I hope will not be too big that they can't overcome. Malik Willis, I think Auburn would be really good if we kept him. Right? Obviously, we can always speculate. It's different having success in a non-Power 5 conference, though. Malik Willis saw some more time than a backup typically sees during his time here. And there were some good things that I saw, but I didn't see things that made me question his move or Auburn's decision not to start him. If only Tank had played today, we may have had it. I do think Tank would have made a huge difference because you saw that we became very one-dimensional. Just look at the stats alone of running. Bo Nix is your best runner, and that is not saying much at this point. I think, Big Simp, I think most of us are in agreement that we'd like to see Caddy and Travis stay, and I think that would go a long way for Coach Harsin to win some favor with a very divided Auburn fan base and with the players as well, because Travis is a player's coach. And he knows how to motivate them. He is unconventional, and when he first got here, I was kind of questioning, is he ready to be a coach yet and not just an analyst? But he has really impressed me, so I am on the Travis Williams bandwagon. I would place the odds that Davis from Texas takes Bo's job at greater than 50%. Hey, that happens. It looks good. Looks good for me. We say we want them to stay, but how do we know they weren't in the same boat against Gus as Steele was? You're operating off the assumption that is true. Always remember that the story is not as cut and dry as you think it is based off what you see online. And the only ones that know what actually happened are the ones that were involved. I'm not saying that there wasn't, but it's usually not as true as you think it is. I've seen that play off too many times in my life, and that has held true. So if they were, sure, right? But this is me, a guy who is a big Gus Malzahn supporter, and agrees with this and says this was a wrong decision to fire him, saying I would have preferred we had kept Kevin Steele as the head coach. Think about that for a second. I should tell you something. It's not about Gus. It's about what's best for the team. Let's see. I think we could be happy with 8 wins next season at this point. Well, I don't think that's a bad thing, Josh. I think if Coach Harsin pulls off an 8-win season in his first year with everything he's got to deal with, that is an incredible feat. And he will win a lot of praise for me, because that means he will have beaten everybody he's probably supposed to, with losses probably to Alabama, Georgia, maybe Texas A&M, or you insert either Texas A&M or LSU, and then maybe Penn State. And so if he beats Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, I forget who's on our schedule next year, the other non-conference teams that are going to be the rinky-dink ones, is it Vanderbilt? No, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but basically beats everybody that he's supposed to. That's a good first year. That is a great, and he will have instilled a lot of confidence in me personally that if he does that. I'm trying to back up here. I think I missed a couple of things here. I think the only person we need to get rid of is Chad Morris, but I think he could be good slightly under Harsin. That's a potential, right? But I don't see a reason why he stays. I don't see a reason why he stays. 2 people I don't expect to be retained are Chad Morris and Kevin Steele at this point. I mean that's pretty obvious, right? Pretty good source said he's not coming back. Now imagine Tank running behind an actual O-line. Spooky. That's so right? If he had a great offensive line, that's great. And I hate talking so bad about our offensive line, because it's not like the guys aren't out there trying. They've just had a lot go wrong for them. Bad coaching from Herb Hand. Well, it wasn't these guys specifically. It just didn't set them up for some of them actually had him as a coach. So there you go. It's a lot to break over time. Imani, I don't agree with that comment. That's just, you don't know that happened. That's just speculation. Hillbilly, he needs to get busy finding some offensive linemen. Nothing's going to work out. Can't disagree with that at all. That's priority number 1. Offensive linemen. Blocking. Simple X's and O's. We'll do a much better job. Do you think Harsin and Chad Morris would be good together? I don't think so, personally. I don't really have much solid concrete to think that. It's just a feeling. So I'm not going to just say based off of film. I'm going to mess with Hillbilly the rest of the day. We don't have much time left, but I love giving him a hard time. I just don't have any concrete evidence to feel good about it, that relationship. But if he decides, obviously Coach Harsin sees something in it. So it makes you wonder why we just didn't keep the band together in the first place. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. 8 wins with development, I'll be happy. So CD, give me your definition, not the Webster's definition, but your definition of what development for a football player means for you. Because that's a big word that everybody throws out, and nobody, when I give people, I refute that it has happened, just not to the degree that they want, nobody can really define it. That's a big word that sounds good until you actually break it down. Let's see. You can probably rule out Caddy. He was one of the newbies on the staff. Yeah, but I think that's maybe why he does get retained. I think he might get retained because he's not as ingrained there, and coach might see. I mean, one thing we can't argue about is that his recruiting ability to get Tank and his coaching of him has done a pretty decent job. So I think they keep him personally, or I hope they do. I shouldn't say I think. And I do agree that Morris is a goner. What's going to be the biggest need when Bo leaves? I mean, the biggest need, whether Bo is here or not, is offensive line. I mean, it's as simple as that. Love and respect, my friend, even when you're wrong. Gotcha. Yeah, so that I mean, really, that's the biggest thing here is that what I'm going to be focused on is what he does recruiting, and I'd like to see more long-term focus on that than short-term. What I mean by that is not going to the transfer portal too much. I want him to go get solid offensive line recruits that are going to be freshmen, that they can be coached, developed, and we can move forward with them. So that is my biggest thing that I'm focusing on right now. Gaming is just here to be a jerk at this point, so we'll just kind of keep him over there, and he can do whatever he wants. T. Will, Caddy, and Garner, I would keep if possible. I think Garner's probably done. I think he's probably wanted to retire here, like Kevin Steele had wanted to. I mean, maybe he stays, but a lot of people are part of the opinion that he's not gonna. He was part of the coup and all that kind of thing. So I don't know. Anyway, behind the tank portal rumors, not rumors. UGA Twitter seems to think they have bugs, or big by lockdown. I mean, Bigsby, that's what you meant. Anything's possible at this point. And do you blame the kid? I don't. Auburn wants the Oregon DC as his defensive coordinator. I don't know enough about him, but really, at this point, it's just kind of whoever Coach Brian Harsin wants, honestly. And I'll have some probably hotter takes on that as time goes on and the candidates become more real. But we'll see. Stated that better. Let's see. Bigsby. I watched some Boise. I feel like we're going to have a fast-paced offense. Well, yeah. That's kind of the one you need these days to be successful. But that will change, and Brian Harsin's success and longevity here will be determined about how he adapts, because the offenses will change. And if he runs a multiple style, which means he can kind of pick and choose what he does, maybe he is going to have a long-term success here. I do think that Harsin's going to pull some recruits from out west, so I do agree with you, Josh, and I think that's a good thing. So, especially in the short term. Right now, while Georgia, LSU, Alabama are just pulling everybody that they could ever want from down here, we need to go somewhere else, pull in the people that nobody's focusing on, and when we get back to some prominence, then we can start really competing with some of them. Doesn't mean you don't recruit here and you don't work on those kids, but I think our focus needs to be, we need to shift our perspective for the time being. Excuse me. All right, I think my voice is going with my sinuses. As I said, I don't have COVID. It's just regular allergies, so don't panic about that. But I am starting to get a little bit more nasally as we go on here. Thank y'all so much for being here today. Smash the like button if you enjoyed watching here today. Likely we'll probably do something tomorrow, and then we'll keep going forward as news comes out. So I hope that you're subscribed and have that notification bell marked so you never miss a chance to check out when we go live here. Until I talk to you again, everybody. War Eagle. It's a new era.